Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into the nuts and bolts, the money side of things behind modern social movements.
That's right. We're not so much focused on the ideology itself today, but more on the infrastructure, how these things are funded.
Specifically, the financial architecture supporting some modern Black leadership movements. We've been looking at quite a few documents.
Yeah, a mix of briefing docs, internal critiques, the kind of stuff that flags concerns about, nonprofit accountability. And they really focus on the structure around leaders associated with the foundational Black Americans movement, FBA.
Okay, right. So our goal today, our mission, if you like, is to unpack this central question that keeps coming up in these sources.
Which is?
When you really look at the design, is this financial setup a genuine social movement funded by the community? Or is it maybe closer to a really complex financial funnel designed, for revenue and maybe insulation?
That's the core tension. And the spark, really, the thing that started this whole debate in the sources, it comes down to one specific piece of public data.
Let's jump straight in there then. What is it?
It's the 2023 IRS filing for Tariq Nasheed's Melanoid Nation Foundation, MNF. That public document is ground zero for this whole financial puzzle.
Right. And the critics cited in our sources, they saw something there that immediately raised concerns.
Oh, yeah, a huge red flag, as they put it. Because you have a movement that seems built on, grassroots support, calls for donations.
But the numbers didn't quite match that expectation. What did the filing actually say?
Okay, get this. For 2023, the official tax form reported $0. $0. In contributions, gifts, grants. Nothing.
Zero. Wow. Okay. But there was money coming in.
A lot of it. In the same filing, the foundation reported $784,000. But, and this is key, it was listed as program service revenue.
Okay, hold on. Zero contributions, but almost $800,000 in program service revenue. For people not deep in nonprofit tax stuff, what's the difference? Why does that classification matter so much?
It matters hugely. See, a contribution or donation, that's typically a gift. It's tax deductible for the donor, given to support the mission. Program service revenue, though, that's different.
How so?
That means people are paying for something specific the organization provides, like buying a ticket to a museum run by the nonprofit or paying tuition for a course they offer. It's a payment for services rendered.
Ah, okay. So it's less like a supporter giving a gift to help the cause and more like a customer paying an invoice for something they receive in return.
Exactly. And the critique in the source material basically argues this isn't accidental. They see it as a deliberate financial move.
Or reclassification.
Yeah, they literally call it a translation from gift to product, from donation to invoice. And doing it this way, classifying the money like that, it provides, significant financial insulation. It changes the whole accountability standard compared to a charity living off public gifts.
So the argument is they're kind of privatizing the funding stream, but still building the movement, using public enthusiasm. That complexity, that strategy, I guess, it leads right into the structure the sources talk about, this three-part financial funnel thing.
Right. The model seems designed for separation. It's layered. Specifically, it seems, to keep the ideological brand, the thing people are passionate about, separate from the entity that handles the money and takes the legal risks.
Okay, let's break down those layers. What's the top part? The idea itself.
Component one is the brand, in this case, FBA, Foundational Black Americans. The sources we looked at call this the untouchable idea.
Untouchable, how?
Well, because FBA itself, the movement, it's a concept, right? An ideology, a political identity. It's not a registered company or charity. So the sources point out the idea itself cannot be audited or subpoenaed.
Got it. So the core message stays clean, legally speaking, keeps its popular appeal, but the money collection happens somewhere else. Layer two.
That's the nonprofit shell. Here, it's the Melanoid Nation Foundation, MNF, that's the official corporate body.
And its job is?
To act as a legal cloak, basically.
Yeah.
Or a shield. According to the analysis, its main function is to absorb the financial heat, all the scrutiny that comes with handling nearly $1 million. It's the name on the tax forms.
Okay, brand, shell, and then the part where the money actually comes in, the engine.
Component three, the revenue engine. The sources identify this specifically as the Hidden History Museum. This seems to be the channel, the mechanism, where supporter funds actually flow.
So when someone gives money, maybe for membership or content access?
It gets routed through this engine, and crucially, it's recorded legally as that program service revenue we talked about, not as a donation.
Which is how you end up with nearly $800 pay in revenue, but zero in contributions on the tax form.
Precisely. That structure makes it possible.
It's definitely a strategic setup, And it sets the stage perfectly for the big conflict in our source documents, right? These totally opposing views on whether this whole thing is like strategic genius or just deceptive.
Yeah, the debate there is really sharp. You've got one perspective, let's call it the builder view, saying this is smart, necessary, and then the critic view saying it's fundamentally misleading.
Let's take the builder side first.
Okay.
Why would they argue this kind of complex shielding is actually a good strategy? What's the upside?
For the builder, it's all about survival, longevity, and control. They see this structure as genius, basically, because history shows movements can get bogged down, even destroyed, by legal or financial attacks.
So protect the money, protect the movement.
Protect the idea. They argue ideas don't last unless someone builds the right funnel to shield the brand. It insulates the ideology from external threats. One source really highlights this view, saying Tariq treats FBA as the brand an untouchable idea. It's seen as a defense mechanism.
Okay, so from that angle, the lack of traditional nonprofit transparency isn't a flaw, it's a feature, it's protection. But the critic, they see that exact same setup very differently.
Completely differently. The critic labels it deception, even legal camouflage. Their main issue is the gap between public perception and financial reality. Meaning supporters think they're making charitable gifts to a cause, joining a movement. But the way the money is classified legally turns them into customers buying a service. It just blurs that line between, as one source put it, inspiration and institution.
Turns supporters into customers. Yeah, I see. And the sources connect this model to other situations too, right? It's not presented as totally unique.
No, not at all. And that's a key part of the critique. They explicitly say it's legal camouflage, and it's the same playbook Umar Johnson got dragged for.
Ah, the Umar Johnson comparison. That definitely adds weight, suggesting it's maybe a known pattern.
Right. It immediately frames it not just as one group's choice, but as potentially part of a wider, maybe controversial practice.
Okay, that comparison is powerful. But let's dive into the mechanics again, specifically the governance, or lack thereof. That seems to be a major point of concern in the source material, the absence of independent oversight.
Yeah, that's highlighted as potentially the biggest structural weakness, whether you think the overall setup is clever or crooked. The sources describe the operational design as having extremely centralized control.
How centralized?
Well, when they looked into who's actually overseeing things internally, the finding was pretty stark. Quote, no board, no independent directors, just Tariq at the wheel.
Wait, for a nonprofit, isn't an independent board kind of standard, essential even? What's the best practice this ignores, and why is that risky?
Oh, absolutely essential. I mean, the IRS, nonprofit watchdogs, everyone agrees. A healthy nonprofit needs a governing board, mostly made up of independent people.
Independent?
Not family, not employees, not people benefiting financially from the founder's other activities. Their job is to oversee the mission, approve budgets, monitor spending, set salaries. Basically, keep things focused on the public good, not private benefit.
So when the sources say no board, no independent directors, they're pointing out that the whole standard accountability system for organizations holding public trust, it's just not there.
Exactly. It effectively bypasses it, which makes the whole thing incredibly vulnerable. It becomes a single point of failure.
How so? What are the risks?
Without that independent oversight, there's really no check on potential conflicts of interest. No one's really there to question spending decisions. It opens the door wide to mismanagement, maybe even misuse of funds. The line between the leader's personal interest and the organization's mission can get really blurry really fast.
And the sources connect that lack of internal checks directly to external risks, legal, reputational.
Yes, they outline a few key dangers. First, it ramps up the risk of IRS scrutiny. If the IRS decides the organization mainly benefits one person financially, not the public mission, they could lose their tax-exempt status. That's huge.
Yeah. Okay, what else?
Second, potential lawsuits. If supporters feel deceived thinking they donated, but actually just made a payment, they could sue. And third, perhaps the most damaging for a movement, is the potential loss of moral authority, public trust. Once this structure becomes widely understood, it can really erode confidence.
Right, so the structure might be designed to fend off external attacks, but that internal concentration of power makes it fragile in other ways. Which brings us back to the bigger picture, the sources paint. This isn't just about one organization, is it? They frame it as a potential template.
Yeah, very much so. It's presented almost as a replicable blueprint. A way to leverage strong ideology for potentially private financial benefit while minimizing accountability. And that Umar Johnson comparison you mentioned earlier, that's central to this argument.
They really hammer that parallel.
They do. And the line they use to summarize it is incredibly blunt, really sticks with you.
You just...
Two men, different brands, same funnel.
Wow, okay. That simplifies all the complexity down to a core observation. It suggests this FBA model isn't unique, it's a type of model, a strategy that can be copied.
Exactly, a prototype. And that leads to the final, really critical question the sources leave hanging in the air.
Which is whether this model becomes the go-to.
Essentially, yeah. Is this a prototype for how ideology gets monetized without accountability? Could this set a dangerous precedent for other leaders wanting to fund their causes outside traditional nonprofit norms?
That's a heavy question. It points to a real tension.
It does. The sources talk about this tension between mission versus monetization. If the main goal shifts to maximizing that program service revenue, basically, running it like a business selling ideology, do the original charitable aims inevitably take a backseat?
It sort of privatizes a public cause.
Right. And the person who controls the funnel controls the financial destiny of the movement, potentially more than the community supporting it.
So looking back at this deep dive, we've seen this incredibly sophisticated financial design built for insulation. We've seen the clash between viewing it as strategic genius versus a lack of transparency. And we've seen how it potentially sidesteps standard nonprofit accountability.
Yeah, it's complex. And ultimately, the analysis in these sources pushes you, the listener, to think beyond just liking or disliking the ideology itself. It asks you to look at the mechanics. Who really owns a movement financially? Is it the community that funds it with the expectation of public benefit? Or is it the leader who designs this kind of intricate financial architecture, perhaps to protect the idea, but also centralizing control? That question, how we answer it, could really shape how social causes are funded in the future. How much transparency are we collectively willing to trade away?